And hello, everyone. I'm Rick Silva Braga. Thanks for clicking us on. The Trump administration is in a war of words today with Iran after Iran's president claimed over the weekend war with his country is the, quote, mother of all wars. President Trump fired back on Twitter late last night. Never, ever threaten the United States again, or you will suffer consequences, the likes of which few throughout history have ever suffered before. Today, President Rouhani dismissed the president's tweet as Trump administration officials doubled down, saying they will not stand idly by while Iran makes threats. CBS News Chief White House Correspondent Major Garrett has more.
Everyone can agree that the regime in Iran has been a nightmare for the Iranian people.
In a scathing speech in California, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo accused Tehran's leadership of spreading violence across the Middle East and participating in widespread corruption.
The level of corruption and wealth among Iranian leaders shows that Iran is run by something that resembles the mafia more than a government.
Speaking to a largely Iranian-American audience, Pompeo dismissed Iranian President Hassan Rouhani and his foreign minister, who negotiated the Iran nuclear deal with the U.S. and 5 other countries. Earlier Sunday, Rouhani threatened Mr. Trump, saying, "Don't play with the lion's tail. This would only lead to regret." And added that peace with Iran is the mother of all peace, and war with Iran is the mother of all wars. President Trump fired back. "We are no longer a country that will stand for your demented words of violence and death. Be cautious."
The United States will withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal.
In May, President Trump withdrew from the 2015 nuclear agreement, designed to stop Iran from developing nuclear weapons.
We are asking every nation who is sick and tired of the Islamic Republic's destructive behavior to join our pressure campaign.
Pompeo's blistering comments came before the Trump administration prepares to reinstate severe sanctions on Iran.
Our focus is to work with countries importing Iranian crude oil to get imports as close to zero as possible by November 4th. Zero.
Joining me now is Caitlin Huey-Burns. She's a CBSN political contributor and political reporter for Real Clear Politics. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, thanks.
And even since Major's piece, the Trump administration continues to double down. Ambassador John Bolton wrote, "President Trump told me that if Iran does anything at all to the negative, they will pay a price like few countries have ever paid before." Why is this escalating now?
Well, a couple of different things. One thing to consider, of course, is that the Trump administration is saying that the Iranian president issued this warning to the U.S. and the president is just firing back.
That's
one way
basically
to take it. But as you just heard Pompeo outline in a speech in California over the weekend, this is a concerted effort by the Trump administration. So this isn't really just a one-off tweet by the president overnight or early in the morning like he usually does. This seems to be a way to perhaps shift focus or turn the page on the Helsinki meeting last week, of course, with Vladimir Putin, a way to show contrast, talking tough on Iran. This is, though, after the president has withdrawn from that Iran nuclear deal, which garnered a lot of criticism, but a lot of allies wanted the U.S. to stay in, of course, to put that pressure on Iran. The White House is saying that sanctions are, this pressure campaign is working better.
We saw very hot rhetoric toward North Korea, say, a year ago, and then look how that turned. How might this be similar to that situation, and how is this one different?
It's a good comparison, and one that you'd imagine Trump supporters bringing up, saying, look, he kind of campaigned as someone who would do things differently, talk differently, and present things in a different way. He's under a lot of criticism for kind of announcing this kind of thing on Twitter. Remember, the president went after Kim Jong-un of North Korea, calling him Little Rocket Man, even in a speech to the UN, then kind of shifted tone and rhetoric, and they think that that was a successful way to do things. Now, we still haven't seen, the real positive outcomes of that change in rhetoric to North Korea. We'll see what the president is trying to do here, but you do have many of his allies saying that this is a good thing that they want to do.
You mentioned the possibility that this is a pivot away from all that bad press around the Helsinki summit. The president, as he does, tweeted this morning saying that he gave up nothing in his meeting with Vladimir Putin, that it was just a step forward in discussions. They still have this plan for a second meeting in Washington this fall. There's the tweet. And you wrote Friday about a poll, a CBS poll, showing that at least among the president's base, they support his policy with Russia. Has he weathered this storm?
Well, we'll see. I mean, he certainly is buoyed by Republican voters, even as Republicans on Capitol Hill continue to kind of criticize the way that meeting was handled. But you do get the sense among Republicans, even those who criticize the president, that they just want to move on from this. That yes, even though they disagree with how the president handled that summit with Putin, even though they disagree with his whole approach to Russia, that they just want to move on from that controversy. And he is bolstered by Republican voters. But if you look at independent voters, if you look especially, of course, at Democrats, he is not receiving rave reviews at all. He has received very negative reviews from the general public. And we're heading into a midterm election year where Republicans know that they need to have their base energized, and they certainly do. But they also know that they're going to have to convince independents in suburban swing districts in order to keep the House. So this is a tricky balancing act for everyone.
And in an NBC poll out Monday, Russia was the issue where the president was seen least favorably. So it's certainly a concern for him. Another big concern, obviously, this ongoing Mueller probe and the recently released FISA warrant describing why the FBI wanted to surveil Carter Page. Now, the president came out and said, this is good. This proves that I was right, that it's this questionable Steele dossier that started it all. Certainly Democrats pushed back very hard on that. But I want to bring it up because of this seeming split among Republicans, where senators like Lindsey Graham seem to support the president, saying that the surveillance was based on garbage. But then Marco Rubio comes out and says this. Let's play that sound.
So as far as you know, and you're a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, the surveillance was justified.
Yeah, I don't think they did anything wrong. I think they went to the court. They got the judges to approve it. They laid out all the information, and there was a lot of reasons unrelated to the dossier for why they wanted to look at Carter Page. And Carter Page was not a key member of the Trump campaign, and the Trump campaign has said that.
This is a big issue in part because it gets to the legitimacy, the founding legitimacy of this investigation. So I guess the question is whether the president can count on Republican support to push this argument that the investigation was started under this false pretense.
It really depends who you talk to. As you kind of just mentioned, those diverging opinions among Republicans. Marco Rubio's on the Intelligence Committee, and he was trying to say that, look, that there might have been other, it's difficult for lawmakers to say what kind of intelligence they know about, but a lot are implying that there was other evidence in that FISA court document, and also the fact that it had to be signed off on multiple times to continue that surveillance, signed off on by the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, among others. And so what you're seeing from Republicans on Capitol Hill as it relates to Russia is, yes, they want to get to the bottom of the meddling issue, but they also kind of understand the president's frustrations that he exhibits through tweets and through his rhetoric on this issue for the past year and a half, that he thinks it overshadows his entire administration. And they're kind of counting on that as well as they're heading into the midterm elections.
Yeah, I was going to say, how concerned are they about the cloud this collectively puts on the party?
They're certainly concerned about the cloud. They're also concerned that the president continues to kind of highlight these issues even when they want to be talking about other things like tax reform and the economy, how the economy is doing well. I will say, though, however, in talking to Republican campaigns across the country, many of them are kind of evoking the president's rhetoric on the Mueller probe. Many of them have called it a witch hunt themselves. And if you talk to Republican voters, and polling bears this out, they also agree with the president and think that this is a campaign waged by his opponents, which of course is not true.
Or go on Twitter for 5 minutes and you'll see these same arguments. Caitlin Huey-Burns, thanks so much. Good to see you.
Thank you. You too.